Welcome from Hollywood, California, the entertainment capital of the world. We're here on the Paramount Studios lot for Cinegear Expo 2014. This is Cinema 5D on the Couch, presented by G Technology, Rode Microphones, Vitec Videocom, Post Magazine, and Owls Media. This is your host, Nino Leitner.
Welcome to another episode of Cinema 5D on the Couch from Cinegear 2014. Today we welcome our sponsor Vitec Videocom, and this time I'm going to make it different. I ask everybody to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm David Linstrom. I'm a cinematographer.
Okay. Hi.
I'm Michael Galing. I'm the Director of Marketing for Teradek.
Cool.
Sherry Fragomeni, Brand Marketing Manager for Anton Bauer.
I'm Ali Ahmadi, and I'm the product manager for light panels.
Well, everybody still remembers you from NAB show, right? Today we'll talk about the new stuff from Vitec, obviously, but first of all, let's start off with Cinegear. It's my first time here, our first time here. I guess all of you have been here quite a few times. What's different from NAB? What, you know, with the whole show and the people who come here?
Throw that to Ali.
I think it's first of all the most casual show that I know of.
That's why you're wearing shorts.
No, I'm wearing shorts because it gets hot. I think that the percentage of actual users compared to quote-unquote businessmen that come to the show, purchasers or managers, there's a lot of DPs, gaffers, grips that come to the show, people that actually do the work, people that specify the equipment or that they have their own hands on that gear, and they're there, and the resulting atmosphere is a lot more casual. It is not a selling atmosphere. It's more of a, hey, what's new, you know, and oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I haven't seen this.
So at NAB you get the buyers for the stuff, and at Cinegear you get the people who have to work with it, right?
No. At NAB there's also users that come, you know, industry professionals that use the gear, but the percentages are very different. And at NAB we're indoors, we wear slacks and button-up shirts, and at Cinegear we get to wear shorts and polo shirts.
Nice. So what do you expect from this year's show, David?
It's always nice to get your hands on equipment and then be able to play with it in a setting, and then talk to other users like myself, and so we can bounce ideas off each other and see if it's going to be practical or not. So, because you know, sales pitch is sales pitch everywhere, and until it's tested, it's just an idea.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, because at Cinegear, a lot of the time, somebody will walk up and go, "Oh, I haven't seen this," and you as a representative from the manufacturer, sometimes you don't get a chance to go, as you're going, somebody who's standing next to the product goes, "Oh yeah, I used this on a so-and-so production," or "I used this like this," and there's a lot of kind of like collaborative education going on at Cinegear that goes beyond the traditional, what you're saying, the sales pitch, you know?
Yeah. So it's first time we welcome Teradek as part of Vitec to the show. So I've been using your Bolt products quite a bit, but I'm not really familiar with the other stuff. I think most of it was already introduced at NAB, right?
Yeah. So at NAB, the big push was we have a whole new line of Bolt products, but we also came out with something called the Cube Pro, which has a timecode buddy built inside. The Cube has been around for, gosh, almost 4 or 5 years now. And for cinema use and pro video use, a lot of people tended to utilize it for iPad streaming. So it was great for a confidence monitor, or to give, you know, to your clients so they'd kind of stay out of your way. What the Cube Pro does is it kind of beefs up the initial feature set and allows you to monitor on, say, 10 iPads or Android devices, and that could be cell phones, tablets, you name it. But in addition to that, we put Timecode Buddy into it, so we'll actually sync with a number of other Timecode Buddy receivers and transmitters on set, and you can use a cube as either the master or the slave. And so we're trying to integrate more or less Wi-Fi technology and H.264 technology into the broader cinema atmosphere, I'd say, rather than just sticking to more of the microwave wireless systems, which are, you know, have been around for a long time.
I'm sure you see the broadcast and cinematography world come together. I mean, especially in your field, I think that's something we all experience. That, you know, what used to be like broadcast is getting more cinematic, and cinema is getting more reachable. It's easier in reach. It's in easier reach now because the products are cheaper and more accessible by anyone.
Yeah, completely. One of my clients told me the other day that big broadcast is dying. And what he means by that, I think, is that a lot of the really, really high-powered stuff is moving down in terms of price and capability into the hands of just regular pro video guys, but also moving into cinema. And one of the biggest things that we've seen is our bonded cellular product, which what that will do is it'll take modems from Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and it'll aggregate the 3G and 4G bandwidth into a big data pipe. And what you can do now is you can broadcast in full HD over that big data pipe to anywhere in the world. And so we had a movie set in New York City last year using one of these to get the footage from uptown to another set downtown and then back again, and so that people in each camp could see what was going on at relatively real time.
Oh, cool. So like the B crew saw what the A crew was
Exactly.
filming.
And typically that transmitter is used by Fox News, a number of other major news stations for broadcast contribution. They're out in the field. Instead of using microwave links, they put this on their camera, they run out there, and they broadcast live back to their station over cellular modems. So it's very interesting to see this kind of cross that's starting to occur.
So is that a typical use case? I mean, we used to see a lot of satellite trucks, expensive, you know, big equipment for TV stations in order to be able to broadcast live from anywhere. I'm sure, I mean, I'm not so familiar with that kind of stuff, but I'm sure it's now much easier to do that via 4G.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's always going to be a need for satellite trucks because 3G and 4G still is not totally pervasive. But that's what bonded cellular technology is supposedly doing. And you can see a trend. It certainly is becoming very popular. I mean, these things are being used at the Sochi Olympics and all of the major events worldwide now. It's a great way to save on costs, but it's so much more flexible. You don't need a giant van anymore to roll up on site. You can just throw it on a camera and go running. And as long as you've got a connection, you can broadcast over it.
Cool. So David, in your line of work, do you use products like from Teradek? Like, I mean, do you broadcast, you know, feeds, HD feeds to Video Village, or?
I haven't, but it's interesting listening to this description because a lot of times when you're sending out second unit, third unit, you have to wait for the footage to get back and then critique it, and sometimes you don't get what it is you want. So now you can do it in real time. It's more direction you can give in the field. So I could see that application being very popular.
Yeah. So you worked on Wilfred, right? As a camera operator.
I did.
So
yeah,
that's a very interesting show, and involving a person dressed as a dog.
Yes.
Dressed up as a dog, and
yes.
It's also, I just heard before what you're shooting on. So that's
the Nikon D800.
Why did you choose, or why did the production choose to shoot on a DSLR for a major, you know, TV network series?
Well, the premise of the movie, or I'm sorry, the premise of the television show is that Elijah Wood, who plays the character named Ryan, tries to commit suicide and fails. And when he answers his door, his neighbor asks a favor if he could watch her dog, and her dog is a man in a dog suit. And so he sees this man in a dog suit and has a relationship with this man in a dog suit, where everybody else sees a real dog. So it all takes place in his head. So the idea of full frame video with super shallow depth of field allows for some very surreal imagery, I guess, as far as we can get on American television. Yeah. And so it worked perfectly. You know, it was super shallow depth of field.
But how do you rig up the camera? I'm sure you need a lot of stuff to make it work in that cinema environment. I mean, I know the camera, I like the image, but we all work with DSLRs, and there's a lot of issues that you have to work around because they're still first and foremost photo cameras. So how do you work around that?
Right, so it has an HDMI out, which goes into a monitor, and then that monitor goes to another processor, which gives us SDI. And then that goes to Video Village for the director, and then to a viewfinder for the operator. It's an interesting rig. It's kind of based on a Arri SR3, so the operator is a little familiar with it, and it works.
And you also use Nikon lenses, right?
We use Nikon lenses, yes, and we use Anton Bauer batteries to give us some back weight. We use O'Connor matte boxes. Those are nice. And yeah, what else? We use O'Connor tripods. So it's a pretty elaborate rig for a DSLR, but it allows us to use 3 cameras that match all at the same time, and it certainly brought the price point down. Production couldn't afford to throw 3 Alexas on. That was out of their range. It was a very low budget show, but we were able to have 3 cameras that gave us a beautiful image. And last year it won an ASC award, so obviously it paid off.
But unfortunately, it was canceled, I heard, right?
Yes, it's the last season.
Oh,
so,
bummer.
but you can watch it on Netflix.
Cool. So you talked about the Anton Bauer batteries. Why did you decide to use Anton Bauer instead of regular V-mounts, let's say? Or
well, the mount is probably the first choice because they lock in and they're very secure, and it's a handheld show. A lot of times it's handheld, so you need that security. Anton Bauer's, in my experience, has just been very reliable. The way they're charged, the readout on them, you know exactly where you are. The charger is an intelligent charger where it'll process the battery and always bring it up. And so you're kind of, where you stand with that battery. And the last thing you want is for your batteries to die in the middle of a take.
yeah, which happens often with normal DSLR batteries.
Yes, yeah. So we bypass that. We don't use DSLR batteries. Everything, we have dual Anton Bauers, and everything gets routed through that. I don't think we have any small DSLR batteries at all. Yeah. So
cool.
That helped.
So Sherry, you work for Anton Bauer.
Yes.
We talked a lot about Anton Bauer at the NAB show.
Right.
We know all about it. So, but there has been some change, right, from what we heard at NAB.
Yep. So the big change is that Anton Bauer has got feedback at NAB, and we've decided to brand our VMount batteries Anton Bauer batteries. So this way we service both the V-mount and the gold mount aspect of the industry. So it just made sense, and we're excited to roll out the new products.
Cool. So I'm sure you already got some initial feedback. You're starting to roll out right now.
Right. We're at the prototype stage. Excuse me. And we have a user, Doug Jensen from Vortex Media. He is a Sony certified expert who's now currently using our V-mount branded batteries. And he's very excited about them. He's putting them in his new book. This is a PMW F55 book. So that should be coming out in July. So he loves the fact that he's very mobile. He uses them to power his light panels. And so we're excited that he's happy about the product.
Cool. You mentioned light panels. Ali, you have been teasing me about a new product that's in the gear like for the past hour or so.
Yeah.
Pull it out.
So, so you've never seen this. You know nothing about this, right?
Ta-da. Well, I really don't, actually.
Ta-da.
Oh, wow.
This is our new 1x1, the Astra 1x1. A new star is born.
Is it replacing the other ones?
No, it's not replacing it, but we're adding this, and you'll see why. Actually, I can't turn it on right now, but I could, but there's no power. This light is 4 times brighter than the old 1x1. So it's
4 times as bright?
4 times brighter.
Is it daylight?
This is a bicolor version. We're starting the Astra lineup with a bicolor version. So back here you have the regular dimmer knob, you have a bicolor knob, you have an on-off switch. We took into account lots and lots of years, because we started the whole 1x1 thing, right? So we have more years of user feedback than anybody else out there. And so we decided to basically redesign a 1x1 from the ground up. We're using different LED technology, which allows us to be a lot brighter. We have custom LEDs, we have custom optics, and the two are married to each other. So the unit is fan cooled, so that's how we can hit that intensity level of 4 times. But we know that sometimes people have an issue with fans. This is an extremely quiet fan. We went through over 150 fans. and picked this one because it is by far the quietest. You probably wouldn't even be able to hear it in this room, as quiet as it is, if it was on. But there's a little module here. There's a module valve. You can open that up, and there's another little cool point to the light. It's completely modular. So we will make communication modules at launch. The first one will be an RJ45 DMX module, with more to come in the future. Maybe we'll build some wireless video into that or something.
So what does that mean if you put in a communication model? You can.
So you put in the communication model, and then that the light has a processor, and then the modules will have a processor, and the two processors will talk directly to each other, making this the first dual-core light that I know of. And that will then, in this case, the DMX RJ45 will be able to control the light remotely over DMX. And then let's see what other cool modules we can come up with. But this well also hides a little switch. And with that switch, you can actually turn the fan off. Now, when you turn the fan off, the intensity is cut by half. That basically gives you, as the DP, as the shooting professional, for each individual scene, for each individual moment, the choice between, do I want to have punch, but I can deal with the fan, or I need it ultra, ultra silent, and I'll just get more lights.
But if you have half the intensity, it's still twice as bright.
Still twice as bright as what you're used to from 1x1. Yeah.
Will there be other versions than the bicolor too?
Yeah, there'll be a daylight version and tungsten version.
Nice.
Does it come with the Anton Barrow mount? Or is that
no, it won't come with the Anton Barrow mount, but thanks for pointing that out. So the power supply is on the yoke, because we used to have the power supply on the light, and then when you want to switch to batteries, you'd have to take the power supply bracket off and put the battery bracket on. So we put that on the yoke, so you can actually screw, like your gold mount guy, right? You would screw your gold mount plate on here, and it'll just stay with the light.
perfect?
So you don't have to switch and take on, take off. You just, In fact, when you're like working in like a small environment like here, you plug it into the wall. You can even have your battery back here. You want to move it somewhere else where you can't reach the outlet anymore. You just unplug it.
What does it draw?
It's about 100 watt draw.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Impressive.
yeah, the key to this is really the optical system. We worked on the optical system for a long time to really get the kinks out of that, and then it's an extremely clean light, and because we're not wasting any light, we're really trying to capture it all and then mix it and put out a soft light.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yes. What's the CRI on that?
The CRI is, and you know what? You need to start talking about the TLCI.
What is
which
that?
is it's a new system that the European Broadcast Union has developed that much better accurately describes the subject of color rendering for lights like LED lights in a broadcast or cinematography environment. And it takes into account that the image is then captured and then processed. And it takes into account that there's a certain amount of colorization or color correction that you can do in post. And it really rates each fixture depending on how much work and how passable the end result is. So the CRI is in the 90s, and yeah, we have really, really excellent color rendering on this. We've had, we're unveiling this at Cinegear, so this is the first time it's actually shown on the internet on video. And we've already had a couple of units out with users around the world, and the feedback has been very, very positive. And the first thing that everybody says is, wow, that is bright. And then the second thing they say is, wow, that's a sexy light. Because it does look, and it is a sexy light.
It's more streamlined.
Can you get a Chimera on there or any sort of box?
Yes, yes, there's softbox. I actually even brought one, just in case Nino asks that question after we're done shooting. Yeah, there's a softbox, and you'll be able to put grids on it and cloths and everything. So, and actually, this is the interesting thing with lighting, right? I'm sure you'll agree with me. Intensity equals versatility. And because you can dim these very nicely compared to like an HMI or something, and easily, that really equals versatility, because you have just that punch. So you can take that punch and you can send it through a softbox or not. Or
you can model it, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, once you get used to having lights that don't need AC, it's really hard to get back to normal lighting. I mean, I'm sure you know. I mean, I don't know how you shot on Wilfred if you used LEDs, but moving fast and sometimes shooting somewhere where there isn't a power supply or a generator van parked next to it.
Not on Wilfred. We had a pretty elaborate lighting setup, but I do a lot of documentaries in that world. It means a lot because I spent 18 years shooting for National Geographic, and we've been all over the place where there is no power. And I've shot entire shows on just light panels, LEDs. So it was easier.
It
wasn't easy, but it was easier.
Yeah, I also shoot a lot of documentaries, and I wouldn't want to miss LEDs anymore. I mean, it's like going everywhere right now. And it's nice to also see hard lights with LEDs now, which is still kind of new, but it's getting there.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to push that envelope. We're trying to take LED technology into all these different types of light qualities, light intensity levels.
You think it will be eventually able to replace all the hot lights? I mean, like power-wise?
Eventually,
even big HMI units?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Like an 18K HMI power.
Like one big LED?
It'll take a little bit. Yeah. And you won't be able to run it off one 90 watt-hour battery, but maybe you'll be able to use a couple of them. Yeah. I mean, 2-3 years ago, it was inconceivable to have a 2K tungsten equivalent that you could run off of batteries, and we're doing that right now.
That's
we started doing it a year and a half ago. And we have a battery solution that we're prototyping right now, where you use Cineblock batteries from Anton Bauer, and you can power our Solar 12 for hours.
Cool. So, David, for the documentary stuff, are you still shooting a lot of documentaries?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Is it? How do you see? We talked about a little bit in another show that the whole industry is changing with cameras. I have a lot of clients requesting sometimes to shoot on large sensor cameras, while sometimes it doesn't really make a lot of sense for documentaries. I talked about that with Tom Gilmet the other day at another show, who also shoots a lot of documentaries and works a lot with Vinton products. So what do you think about that? I mean, it is a more cinematic look, obviously, with the larger sensors, but sometimes it's just, I find it less efficient to sometimes be forced to constantly change lenses, especially in a documentary environment where you have to move fast.
Right. So the biggest challenge there, I think, is focus and frame size. So in the documentary world, in especially 2/3 inch, which came out of broadcast, you have a lot more zoom availability.
So I'm sure National Geographic stuff was mostly shot on 230-inch cameras.
Yes, and So, but everybody loves a shallow depth of field now. It's more sexy, not very practical when you're moving super fast. So that's part of the battle. But you have to you deal with it. And Sony has done a couple things, and it looks like Panasonic's going to do a couple more, and who knows where that goes. But I don't know. Every setup's different. I'd much rather shoot where I can have confidence of the focus.
Yeah, I feel like while a lot of the accessories, like all these products, like Teradek, like Anton Bauer, like the light panels, they free you up to move quicker because you're not bound by any cables anymore. You don't need AC, you don't need wiring for monitoring and stuff like that. But with the cameras, I think still a lot of the lenses we have to use on the larger sensors are not really made to be used by one-man bands. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like you need an AC, and also there's not enough lenses, at least for me, on the market that actually are perfect for documentary on large sensors, like on Super 35.
Right.
Because like the zoom range is very often, you know, it's not wide enough or it's not
Yes.
long enough. It's
You need 3 to take place of
Yeah.
where you needed 1 before.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a challenge. And, you know, I don't know. What are you going to say to your client? No?
No, of course. I mean, you say yes, but you still. I mean, I recently had a shoot. I won't mention which one, but you run into troubles that you know would have been avoidable with smaller sensor cameras. To be honest, even though the look might not be as sexy, but I might have been able to get some shots that I wasn't able to get with a larger sensor, simply because we had to move fast, and there was only one time you could take some stuff. So.
Yeah.
That's a big challenge, I think.
Yeah, it's almost gone back in time when you had to shoot with, you're handicapped with your gear, you know, 30 years ago. So, but it'll catch up.
Yeah, and I think it's. I mean, there's like all the Ocon accessories, for example. I mean, they help you to, you know, handle these problems better. For example, I mean, you mentioned that you shoot on the Nikon lenses on Wilfred, and we just, you know, while using photo equipment on cameras that were not made, on lenses that were not made to be used for cinema applications, it means we have to add a lot of accessories in order to make it work again. I think. I mean, there's not. A lot of people are missing the times where you just could pick up a camera out of the case and shoot right away. And I think it needs to get back to that again. What do you think about that? I mean, it's like our friend Sebastian from Cinema 5T here also just tested the Amira.
Right.
And it's one of the first cameras in a while that, you know, is just ready to shoot when you pick it up.
Right. And I think they've addressed that. And I haven't seen it, but knowing Ari, they've probably done a great job. You know, for me, the equipment has to work in adverse conditions far away from any sort of support.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't really trust a camera until it gets tested, because the last thing you want is for your gear to fail when you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know? So it's nice on a stage when you're in the city and you can call somebody to come and bring you another piece of gear. I don't normally work that way.
It's also, I think, a lot of people forget when they buy the accessories that you mentioned that the D800 is loaded up with all kinds of stuff. But I find that on Wilfred, but the problem very often is that people just buy accessories and they make the whole thing so heavy,
Right.
And you have to add a counterweight and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And you
Yeah.
know, why not simply use that battery that actually has use for your camera as a weight, or use a light matte box like the O box. You know,
Yeah, the O
like-
box is great for that. It's very light and functional. Yeah, I agree. I call that gack. There's just too much gack on cameras. You know, I want to slim it down and
Yeah.
make it more portable.
I wish there were more standards, like, you know, like industry standards for stuff like, you know, it makes it more interchangeable, basically. I mean, you're missing, every now and then you end up having, I want to use this, I want to use that, but how do I
Right.
get that together? It's tricky.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you use the O-Box and O'Connor products. What else do you use? Do you use any of their heads?
Yeah, so the heads are, we have 3 of them on the show, and they're used every day. O'Connor took a more higher-priced, engineered product and made it smaller, the same engineering, lighter, and more adaptable, I think, towards a DSLR, which is what we're using, and it worked great. You know, it has nice counterweight on it. It has nice drag. We have a series of lenses. We use the tripods when we go 200 millimeters and beyond. We have 200, 300, 600 millimeter lenses at times.
600.
Yeah.
Were you shooting a moon or something? Or?
Well, you know, that's what the director wants. So you get a nice long, you know, walk and talk from blocks away. And it's impressive. And, you know, the size of that camera is about almost 3 feet long when you
Wow.
rig it out. And it worked. So
It kind of defeats the purpose of using a D800, right? Or you just after the full frame
it's
look.
the look. It really
Yeah.
is. It's the full sensor, super shallow depth of field look for that show. I don't recommend it for every show. It's not an easy rig. The focus pullers had the hardest time of anyone.
I can believe that.
So,
Yeah.
but they did a great job, and we were very fortunate.
Do you think full frame sensors will ever catch on in proper cinema cameras? Because there's a few, Zeiss is really betting on that with their lenses. I mean, all their new lenses cover full frame, but there's not really many full frame cinema cameras on the market yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Super 35 has been tested and proven, and I think it's almost universal in that regard. But who knows? Somebody else gets a big look and it becomes trendy. Who knows where it'll go?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always surprised every year. It seems to change so much. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Michael, the Teradek products, I think you're big in broadcast, I guess, right?
We're all over the place, to be honest. Broadcast, cinema, pro video, medical, house of worship, education, on and on and on.
Wow. So what's your average user like? I mean, what do they use the product for? I mean, I use it, on the Movi for remote monitoring and, to give the client a monitor, just have him sit somewhere and not be behind my back.
Right. Yeah, the Bolt is most often used, I would say, in pro video and cinema, primarily for monitoring purposes. In houses of worship, we see a lot of churches using it in IMAG setups. So they've got a camera somewhere on the floor, and then they're sending that feed up to a large projector, maybe toward the front or the back of the facility. We have these things being used in education for similar things, including high school sports games. They'll get the footage up on a big screen, somewhere on the side of the field. And then we have our encoders, which do a lot of the streaming. And the encoders, again, same thing goes for house of worship. Every church wants to stream their services online. And so we have a lot of people buying our streaming products just for that purpose. But also major broadcasters, same exact thing. Coachella, a lot of music festivals are using our bonded products to get footage out, from the middle of the desert back over to, where they're mixing everything. Our products are really used in so many different industries because, everybody seems to be moving toward wireless everything. Wireless power seems to be kind of around the corner. I mean, we're starting at cell phones, but I hope one day we can see it move into something even larger. And
so you have the battery sitting there and the camera.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know how that's going to work just yet, but it's
I don't
possible
want to
with cell
step
phones
into
yet.
that beam.
Yeah, you might want to stay away from it. But the beauty of wireless technology is, just 5 years ago even, it was very expensive.
Yeah.
And just in the last few years, we've been kind of taking these top-level technologies and what we like to say is democratizing it, spreading it out and giving it to the everyday shooter. Anybody that owns a 5D Mark III can buy one of our products. Now you've got the same product that you can see in the ASC and ICG magazines. I can't think of a time that you could do that with wireless products, like I said, just 5 years ago.
Yeah. Do you see, I think also now it's a miniaturization of all the broadcast stuff that it's also happening. You see that the transmitters get smaller and smaller too? I mean, as the cameras get smaller? Or?
Yeah, definitely.
Is that even possible? I mean, physically?
It is possible. Antennas are always a problem. You always, you have to make design decisions based on that. But, David touched upon it, trying to simplify a rig, shrink it, get it smaller, less GAC, is that what you called it?
Yeah.
And that's the exact same, thing that I think that we're moving toward as well. If we can continue to shrink these things and make it just, we have a product called Clip. It's this big. And this will fit on UAVs, for example, drones. And the reason we built it is because, especially with them, power consumption and weight are huge problems, especially when you have to keep it in the air for long periods of time. But that same concept could be applied to any sort of rig, even if it's on the ground. And so we're constantly moving in that direction, and we'll continue to do so up until design decisions stop us on how we do antenna placement, which is primarily one of the big reasons why it may not shrink quite as small as we want it to be.
What kind of batteries do you, use for? You have built-in batteries in some of your products?
A handful of them have internal lithium-ion batteries. I believe they're the same ones that are in some cell phones, actually. And that can give us anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half of runtime, depending on what product it is. Typically, what we do is we have 2-pin LiMo connectors on our products. And we sell every product with a LiMo to P-tap cable, which you can tap an amp-hour battery, which tends to be what most people will do. But we also have battery plates where you can slide on all sorts of different kinds of batteries. And we tend to promote having people use alternative power sources because using something built in usually doesn't give you the length of time that you need.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, but batteries, making batteries small is a hard thing, right? It's compared to other products.
It's hard because we're trying to build safety. That's, with lithium-ion batteries, safety is really important nowadays. So our new batteries basically has multiple things that we're doing to make them safe, the safest batteries, lithium-ion, you can have. So we have a new honeycomb design that basically puts the cells in individual casings. So if one should go rogue, it doesn't spread, it doesn't catch on fire. There's multiple sensors within the battery to shut the battery down. So safety is our main concern about lithium-ion batteries, and we think that we're innovating in that area in the market.
Cool. So I think we talked about that on the last show, but I think it's something that a lot of people are interested in. If you can just briefly mention the tricky issue of traveling on planes with big batteries, because there's a lot of limitations that people have to think about. And a lot of people forget about that.
Yeah. So 160 watts is probably the maximum you can travel, on board. We have 3 sizes. 2 of them you can travel with, and 1 you cannot. And that's mostly used for cinema purposes.
And I think it needs to be on the camera, right?
Yes, on the camera.
So
or
it can't
in a
be
bag.
separate, but always in the hand luggage.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I think that was pretty comprehensive. We touched on a lot of things and new products and interesting projects. I really have to check out Wilfred.
There's another season. It's going to be on FX for one more season, and then
cool.
But the entire run will be online.
I'll check it out, and then I'll invite you to another show, and I'll grill you with more questions.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thanks,
pleasure.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was another episode of Cinema 5D on the Couch. We thank our sponsors, Vitec, G Technology, Post Magazine, Rode Microphones, and Owls Media. And see you on one of our next episodes. Thanks.